All right, y'all. We've got to talk about episode 18 of Dragon Ball Daima. Because holy crap. Now, honestly, oh man, this happened in way different order than what I was expecting, right? So if you remember the end of the last episode, I'm going to cover a little bit here. Remember the end of the last episode, Goku goes Super Saiyan 3. It's the first time we've seen it happen. We saw Vegeta do his, and we saw Vegeta fight the Tamagami like that, which, by the way, if I do have an argument here, and I'm going to be a bit critical for a moment, that whole Super Saiyan 3 moment, it felt like Goku was a bit overpowered. Now, let me explain, and I'll get to my actual numbers and all that. I'm doing this all in a very specific order for a very specific reason. Some of you already know why. Now, I'll just say this. If you have not watched the episode, the big spoilers from the episode I will not get to until the end of this. But I do want to talk about Goku, and I want to talk about Super Saiyan 3 very specifically at the beginning of this, because if you haven't watched the episode, it's shockingly... It's not that big of a deal, but it is, but it's not, okay? So Goku was kind of holding his own, right? Like, Goku was straight up fighting Goma in Super Saiyan 3 and doing a pretty respectable job, but here's my problem. Last episode, we saw the Tamagami 1 fighting alongside everybody else, and no one was really holding their own against this guy. And when it comes to Super Saiyan 3 Goku, when it comes to Super Saiyan 3 in general, Vegeta wins Super Saiyan 3 against Tamagami 2. Now, Vegeta's a little bit more serious, and he does tend to use these forms just kind of overpower and overwhelm his opponent, whereas Goku's in it for the fight. But at the same... Well, I mean, Vegeta is too, obviously. But at the same rate, I felt like if the Tamagami was in the fight, that Super Saiyan 3 should not have been this overwhelming. That said, let's get in the numbers before we go any further, because everything I'm going to talk about after this, super spoilers. So, if you haven't watched the episode, great time to pause it. Go do so. I will just say this was easily one of my favorite episodes. The animation was top-notch. It wasn't quite that first Super Saiyan Vegeta, it wasn't quite on the level of Goku when he first went Super Saiyan, not even first went Super Saiyan, when he fought the Tamagami 3. Wasn't quite on that level. It was good. But I think they're pulling their punches a little bit on this episode. That said, still a 10 out of 10 for me in the animation department. I'll say 10 out of 10 in the music and audio department, because there was so much going on here. There was a lot of Foley art that they needed to, like sound effects, things like that. The music was absolutely on point. 10 out of 10 there. Story. I have a little bit of a problem with the power scaling, but it is Dragon Ball. It's a tough thing to power scale. Power scaling is always all over the place, and it's just nearly impossible most of the time to get a clear, distinct goal on power scaling. But that's kind of been the point of Dragon Ball for a very long time now. Plus, Goma rescales himself, just at random, which we'll get to when we get to the breakdown. But I'm going to give it a 10. I'm going to say 10s across the board. Was it the perfect episode? All 10s would kind of imply, yes, it wasn't perfect. But it was absolutely fantastic, and I think the shortcomings, there were enough things to just overwhelm the shortcomings to make it just one of the most enjoyable Dragon Ball Daima episodes we have had yet in the series. I know there's only 18 episodes out, but, let's be fair. At this stage of the game, Super hadn't even really found its footing yet, right? At this stage of the game, we were still I don't even think we were in the copy Vegeta arc. I think we were still making up crap around the 2 movies that had come out that really based on this whole story. Honestly, Daima really has done very, very, very well in all the places where Super really fell apart. And I know a lot of people love Super, but if you think of that critically, if you think about how this whole thing has been put together, how this whole thing has been presented, far superior just in terms of quality. Maybe not the story of the power scaling you want, maybe not the depth of episode or stakes or whatever that you want. But as a show, so far, it is way beyond what Super was, just being from a critical stance. Now, from this point going forward, we are getting heavy spoilers. So, if you haven't watched the episode, a great time to pause the video, drop a like, make sure you subscribe if you haven't. We're going to get into spoilers right now. So, we're going to jump back to Super Saiyan 3. I know what you guys want to talk about. We'll talk about it here in a second. But I wanted to jump back to Super Saiyan 3 because Goku was just kind of handling everything pretty well. And I absolutely adore when Majin Buu gets involved. Majin Buu throws him that big-ass cookie. He gobbles down the cookie, and then I love it. He's sitting next to Goku, and I was not expecting to see them fight side by side. But then Majin Buu is very naive, very childlike. Reminds me a lot of Buu when he's first introduced into the series, and that's what he's supposed to really be an homage to. Nothing like Kid Buu was. Because remember, Kid Buu was like the pure form of Buu, where Majin Buu is just this very childlike, very naive, weird. Like, they're wholly, completely different creatures. Same species, different creatures entirely. So, when Buu is standing next to Goku, and Goku is gone Super Saiyan 3. I love when he starts powering up. We know that they're shapeshifters, right? Not the first time we've seen the Majin Buu species, the Majin whatever species, do the shapeshifting. But I love the fact that he emulated Goku's hair, and they both went all out. And they were just walloping Goma. Just beating him left, right, and center. And some of the tactics that Buu pulled out were phenomenal. I was really not expecting that level of teamwork. Like, it was just great. Just so much fun to witness, right? Like, that was awesome stuff. So, what happens next? Well, Buu runs out of steam. Like, immediately the cookie wears off or whatever. And I thought that was unbelievable. That was hilarious because it's just so tracks for them. Like, I mean, basically, he ran out of not energy per se, but he ran out of, I don't know, encouragement. I don't know, whatever the cookie gives him. So, I mean, he runs out of pure sugar, right? He's like that dude from My Hero. So, dude should just pound a bag of sugar and see what happens. So, legitimately, now Goku's fighting Goma, and he's really getting the upper hand. He's just throwing it for a loop. Like Goku is soundly handling Goma, but for whatever reason, that third eye just kind of overpowers him again and launches this huge blast, and just Goku goes out there in the world, and he is just knocked asunder, right? Like, it's like every time that Goma is overpowered, that third eye thing it's almost like a reactor of sorts. Like, it's somehow channeling energy from the demon world and then just channeling into his body and just making him infinitely more powerful. Like, this dude literally seems to have no upper limit, at least at this stage of the game. So the third eye is just literally like an infinite well of power, right? And Goku is knocked out, and he's on the ground, and Goma's like over top of him, and he's getting ready to launch this huge ki blast. It almost looks like the Hakai energy from Super. And he's about to drop this bad boy down on Goku, and Neva walks up. Now, when he walks up to Goku, you're like, what the hell is he doing? But at first, I had the spoiler, and I knew exactly what was going to happen. But it looks like he's going to recover him. It looks like he's just going to give him his energy back or something like that. And I'm going to say this part of the episode, I appreciate it, and I kind of think we can surmise what happened, but it's never explicitly explained. Now, we dropped a whole video the other day talking about how Goku was going to get a Super Saiyan 4 form, how this was going to happen. I thought this was going to be like an end of the episode thing. I did not think, like, right here at the beginning, before the first half, before the commercial break, that we were going to see Super Saiyan 4 Goku. But Neva just holds his hand out, and basically, like, it almost, if I'm reading into this, it almost felt like back on Namek, when the Elder Namek Guru, Super Kami Guru, was releasing everyone's latent power. It almost feels like that. I'm sure that's how they're going to explain it. but he seems to just always have some trick up his sleeve, and I love that. I love he's just this mysterious character, right? So he's basically just more or less awakens Goku, and that's how he gets a Super Saiyan 4 form. And let me just talk about the Super Saiyan 4 form itself for a moment, because holy crap. Now, my only problem with the Super Saiyan 4 form, I love the fact in GT that it was kind of explained, like, once it overcomes the power of Shenron himself, or in that case, it was, I guess, the Shadow Dragons or whatever, that then he kind of breaks the spell, so to speak. So when he's in Super Saiyan 4, he's an adult, but then he goes back to being a kid. I thought that was a really cool addition. Now, whether or not you kind of, and we'll get to that here in a minute. I think there's something really funny in this episode that kind of like circles around that. But Goku retains his form when retains his child form when he's there. I was kind of hoping the other way around, but I love the red hair on Goku for 2 reasons. Number one, it harkens, well, 3 reasons really. Number one, it kind of harkens back to like the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, and almost kind of, makes the form feel a little bit more, dare I say, special? I don't know. It feels a little more unique. I enjoyed the black-haired Super Saiyan 4 form, but it makes the Daima form just a little bit different, and I like that. Number two, it actually reminds me a lot of the Limit Breaker form that they recently introduced into Dragon Ball Heroes, and I think that actually itself is also really cool. Number 3, it's like a segue almost. It's like an introduction into the Super Saiyan God form, which, obviously Goku's going to be able to obtain here in the series, like in a few years. So, so it's almost like a segue between Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan God. It's somewhere in the middle. It's almost like as I said in the video the other day, it almost feels like a demon form, which I think is just one of the greatest things. So it's like the anti-God form. I don't know. But I always love Super Saiyan 4. Like, as a concept, Super Saiyan 4 is just amazing. And even Toriyama enjoyed it. I mean, he's drawn pictures of Super Saiyan 4 Goku just in his own version. And so this is almost like, and I know, unfortunately, he is gone, but I don't have the footnotes, and I would like to believe that this is something that he came up with and that he intended to happen before his unfortunate passing. So I would like to believe that. I'm sure we're going to get notes later that's going to say, yeah, he 100% just wanted that to be a canonical form, so to speak. So very cool. I absolutely love that. Also, if you look at this form when he's in his child form, I'm running over there on the side, just give myself some little notes. I often do that. His hands are bigger. His hands feel larger. Actually, this one's kind of big right now. If you can see, it's very swollen. I'll explain that one on stream. If you guys are at the Twitch stream tonight, make sure Pilkraptor over on Twitch will be live around 9 p.m. I'll be telling the story how that happened, and it is amazing and stupid and awesome. It's one of my favorite stories right now. Nevertheless, a little self-promotion there. So, the hands seem a little bit bigger. It just seems weirdly out of proportion, but he also feels very different. It's Super Saiyan 4 for the most part that we knew and understood from GT, but there's just a few extra touches and tweaks to make it feel very special and very unique to this franchise. And I love that. I'm going to do a whole breakdown of the Super Saiyan 4 form, how I feel like it probably happened, and I'll do a whole explanation video on that. We'll have that out probably tomorrow, because I think the hype is still very much there. But in Super Saiyan 4, Goku is now one-on-one with, actually, full-on overwhelming Goma. In fact, the little eye thing has to, like, power him up, and basically knocks Goku into the next, basically through the, because remember he made that arena, he has to knock him through the arena, and like blasts him off into like one of the distant towers. And when all that happens, Goku starts powering up a Kamehameha. Now, before we get to that, let me just say, Goku's fighting style in this form was went back to like when he like very much reminded me of his fighting style when he was a kid before he was trained by Roshi, because it was just animalistic. He even used his tail actually as which he often did in Dragon Ball, as something to, well, he didn't really have the tail in Dragon Ball for a whole lot, but he used his tail basically to as like as another appendage, and almost as like a half a hand, half a leg, just whatever it needs to be at the time. And I absolutely love that that was a thing. I adore that we get to see Goku just going all out, but serious too at the same time. Like, this is Goku at his most serious so far in the series. Like, this is basically Goku with Vegeta's like, I have to win mentality. And I adore that. But that's kind of what Super Saiyan 4 always was in GT as well. It's like when Goku finally is just like, I'm done. We got to move on with this. So Goku gets blasted back, as I said, into the other pillar, and everybody else in the arena just kind of jumps in. Like, they have to, like, you know, they're like, this is our cue. We have to, like, you know, help out. And Goku starts charging the Kamehameha. Now, we already know that nobody else over there is really going to be able to hold their own, but they're doing their best. They're just, and it really it brings up so many power scaling questions too, because, like, you know, Goku's like, what, easily 2 to 4 times as powerful in this form that he was in Super Saiyan 3. I don't know, the power scaling's so weird. But as Goku's, you know, basically charging this up, and everybody else is one by one kind of getting taken out, I love, Goma does 2 things in this episode that I thought were amazing. Number 1 is here. When Goku's charging that up, yeah, he just charges in and clocks him. He's like, you know, like basically stopping him from doing what he would equivalent to a magical spell. So, like, you know, cuts him off mid-spell. But I love that Goku literally is just, like, sent for a literal loop and just keeps charging it up and eventually releases it. And that was amazing. But, of course, Goma still just has, like, his infinite energy well and is still just, you know, moving on and on and on with the fight. The fight keeps going. And this was just awesome. Number 2. Now, as Goku's fighting him over there, Dr. Arinisu hits up Glorio, because we already know for a fact that Glorio's been working for her. And Dr. Arinisu calls Glorio, and she's like, it is time. Bring the Dragon Balls to me. I'll handle this, right? And because, you know, Dr. Arnisu's had like one goal this entire time, and that's that she basically wants full control. She wants to be the most powerful in the demon realm. So Glorio brings her the 2 Dragon Balls. And, you know, now you're sitting here going, okay, what even is this? How is this a thing? But it is what it is. It absolutely is what it is. And he actually calls up. I mean, I think they even called him Purunga, but I think it's just the name of the name of General Dragon, not General Dragon, but a General Dragon in the Namekian language. And the dragon comes up. Now, forgot to mention here, while all this is going down, Goma's just making crap up, and he actually uses the power of the eye to, like, decharge Goku. Like, he actually, like, takes him down through the forms. It's from 4 down to 3 down to 2 down to 1 down to base. And, like, how? But, you know, it is. Like, he's just literally just depowering Goku. Like, that's a thing. But meanwhile, Glorio's over there, and, like, he's getting desperate. Like, we have to find a way. And that's when he brings the Dragon Balls to Dr. Arinisu. And Dr. Arinisu's like, you learn the Namekian language, you call him forth, and this huge Purunga-looking dragon pops out, except he's red instead of green, which actually, once again, is kind of a throwback. If you remember GT, we had the red Shenron-looking dragon that was the Universal Dragon or whatever. I think in the version that I watched, they called him the Universal Dragon. But nevertheless, or that was the translation for him. Nevertheless, once you get that red Shenron looking, or the red Purunga looking dude, first of all, everyone's like, that looks like the original Namekian dragon. That looks like Purunga. And it really does. I mean, it's very reminiscent. And Glorio's calling this thing forth, and he starts making the wish. But while all this is going down, Goma's like, like hell and literally charges the dragon. And we have never seen in the canonical story, I don't even think it happened in the movies, we have never seen anybody physically attack the dragon. And that was awesome. Now, here's the clue. Here's how powerful that dragon is. And it's kind of a clue to how powerful Neva might be. Neva, whatever his name is. I think it's supposed to technically be Neva. But the dragon like literally catches Goma and just flicks him away. Like literally flicks him away. And while all this is going down, Glorio finishes the cast, basically finishes the request, and we do not yet know what that is. That was the big cliffhanger for this episode. So I'm sure in the next episode we will find out. But what do you guys think? Do you think Glorio's actually going to like request Dr. Arinisu to get her power? More than likely, it seems at this point like they very much alluded to the fact that he's probably going to release the spell over the main cast. Like he's going to bring them back to normal. I'm going to guess. And then this is why it seems more than likely like Goku will find a way to basically achieve Super Saiyan 4 again on his own. Vegeta will probably get his version of it, and then that's when we will probably finally see the fusion, and we will have then Super Saiyan 4. I'm kind of hoping Vegito instead of Gogeta. Personally, I think it'd be awesome to finally have like a canonical Super Saiyan 4 Vegito, especially considering we got Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta and Vegito, Gogeta in the movie. I'm really hoping that Super Saiyan 4 Vegito is finally canonized. That would be really awesome. So, we'll talk about all that. There's a lot to discuss here with Dragon Ball Daima coming up shortly, but I have now literally ranted as long as the episode, so I'm going to call it here. So much fun. Oh, I love this episode so much. I'm sure everybody did. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll be back with more Dragon Ball Daima coming up really soon. And I'm sorry this was a long one, but I really love this episode.